Hey folks, Eric here with a quick podcast update.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Epic fails of his.
The cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
I want to start by thanking everyone for sticking around these past few months. Things have been kind of insane on my end, mostly good things, more on that later. So I just wanted to give everyone a rundown of what's been happening, what's coming next, updates, announcements, some plugs for a few other podcasts that I've been guesting on, and a quick preview of some of the new episodes coming your way. So first up, if you've been following the show these past few months, you might have noticed that our Y2K New Year's Eve special was a little delayed. Believe it or not, I actually went out of my way to record it well in advance, but then life happened. Our internet actually went out for several weeks. What's funny though is I was trying to explain to Meg's boys, when we were kids, we didn't even have dial-up. And I remember the younger one said, what about Wi-Fi? Back in my day. Yeah, they were totally losing their minds over it. So yeah, long story short, I blame the Y2K bug. I've actually been working on revamping a few things here and there, both between epicfails.com and my portfolio site over at erikslader.com. I recently started the long process of going back and re-editing all of our previous episodes. It's a long process, but I think it'll be well worth it once it's done. As of right now, episodes 0 through 7 have been completely reworked and are available now on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher Radio. In case you didn't catch it on social media back in December, I recently got engaged to the lovely Megan Kaminsky.
Because we saw the movie with your new fiance. Everybody congratulate Eric.
We had an awesome time at a bed and breakfast in St. Augustine. We checked out the old lighthouse, the Spanish fort, and ate some fancy tacos on St. George Street. On top of all that, I've also been collaborating on a few other projects with the guys over at the We Can Make This Work Probably Network, including the new season of Podcasters Assemble, where we're talking about all the Daniel Craig Bond movies leading up to this year's No Time to Die. And if that's not enough, I'm also guesting on this season of Too Young for This Hit, where we're currently doing a recap and review of the new Star Trek Picard series, where I join fellow podcasters Tyler, who knows nothing about Star Trek, and Troy, who knows just about everything about Star Trek, to recap and overanalyze the new series one episode at a time. I was hoping to get an episode out while I was at the Spaced Out event at MOSH, the Museum of Science and History. They had this mini Comic-Con for the closing of the astronaut exhibit, and I was invited out to do a signing for the space book. And so yeah, turns out that they needed someone to host a Q&A last minute with one of the coolest people that I've ever heard of, that I've ever had the chance of speaking with. Michael Snyder, the lead engineer of a company called Made in Space. They actively work with NASA and single-handedly completely revolutionized the entire field by designing the world's first zero-G printer for the International Space Station. Yeah, that dude. So not only did I get to be in the same room with him, but I got to actually ask him some questions. Crazy, right? What's that all about? But yeah, it was a huge honor. I'm super thrilled to have had the chance to meet him. I actually signed a book out to him, and my hand was shaking the whole time. I'm pretty sure I messed up my own signature. I didn't have a whole lot of prep time to memorize the questions, so I ended up reading them off my phone. Right before the Q&A segment, I got a line at my table. I didn't have anyone with me to sell books while I was gone, so I ended up getting locked out of the planetarium and had to wait in line to get into my own talk. So if it wasn't for that, I probably would have been able to set up a mic and record it for the podcast, but I was a stressed out mess and didn't want to make things even more awkward than they already were. Just this past week, I had an amazing time at Amelia Island's Book Fest. I met a lot of great authors, but one of the most rewarding events I had to date was the opportunity to give a presentation to the 4th and 5th graders at Hilliard Elementary. Huge shout out to Michael Regina for reminding me to apply for their Authors in School program, and a special thanks to Corey Torgeson for his support and helping me capture photos and videos of the event. I'll be working on getting that video out on social media at some point in the near future, so stay tuned for updates. I'm actually planning on having Corey on the podcast at some point in the near future. We just haven't quite synced up our schedules yet. So I've got a few more upcoming events. Jack's Book Fest is going to be Saturday, February 29th at the downtown Jacksonville Library. Last but not least, PodFest 2020 in Orlando, Florida is coming up. Thanks to the good folks over at Buzzsprout and Jack's Podcasters Unite, I actually have the opportunity to go to this year's PodFest. So I'll actually be there from March 5th through the 8th. Hopefully I don't mess it up, fingers crossed. So in case I don't get around to posting any more episodes until like mid-March, it's because of all that. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that the world recently lost one of the most incredible women in American history, Katherine Johnson. She was one of the most gifted mathematicians of the 20th century, and easily one of NASA's most accomplished scientists to date. Katherine was a physicist who calculated the trajectories for many of NASA's crewed missions, including Project Mercury, the Apollo missions to the Moon, and even the Space Shuttle program. If you haven't already, check out the movie Hidden Figures, and be sure to pick up the book by Margot Lee Shetterly. It's a fantastic look at many of the unsung women of color who worked for NASA during the space race. Katherine Johnson was 101. Rest in power. As always, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Erik Slader. That's Erik with a K, Slader with a D, D as in dog. Or follow Epic Fails of History. That's Epic with a K. Despite all the craziness, we do have plenty of new episodes in the works. We actually have like 3 or 4 recorded and ready to go. I just gotta edit them. Chris and I were recently asked by a friend of the show, Nicole Wilkes, where would you go if you could travel anywhere in history? So we'll be answering that on next month's episode. And despite the insane delay, the Cuban Missile Crisis episode with Brett Ricketts is still in the works. We've got plenty more to cover this season, from the French Revolution to the Mongol invasions of Japan. Thank you all so much, and stay tuned for more epic fails of history. Hey, baby.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Did you get your recordings done?
Well, I got one of them done, just now.
Good evening, 003. The following is for your ears only and is classified above top secret by Her Majesty's Secret Service. Less than 24 hours ago, our contact with the We Can Make This Work, probably, podcast network intercepted an encrypted audio message sent over social media regarding the upcoming season of Podcasters Assemble, a hype rewatch podcast covering the James Bond films leading up to Bond 25. According to our intel, Season 1 covered the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while Season 2 focused on the Star Wars Skywalker saga. For this season, the podcast network is looking to recruit field operatives from around the world to reminisce about the Daniel Craig Bond movies, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre, in a countdown to the latest film in the franchise, No Time to Die. Your primary objective is to infiltrate Podcasters Assemble by recording and uploading your submissions at probablywork.com. Utilizing a two-way communications device with a built-in microphone, the latest from Q-Branch. In addition, MI6 believes that the first episode is going to be an overview of the series as a whole, showcasing everyone's favourite and least favourite Bond movies, Bond actors, Bond villains, secret layers, cold opens, vehicles, and gadgets from the franchise's history, and more importantly, your background with these films. For a full mission report, go to probablywork.com. The first episode is scheduled for release on March 6th. We're all counting on you, 003.